Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel, Weather on Earth 25. I got an update for you guys regarding the month of April 2023. It's a nice short update looking at the dates ahead. I figure I'd get this rolling quick since it's already April the 3rd. If you guys wish to see videos that cover more in depth the methods of Chinese astrology and numerology that I take a look at to make these predictions, feel free to look at my past video for the month of March, where I give more examples of how we look at these aspects of the dates. In this month's situation, we're just going to take a look at the actual chart right off the bat here, so you guys can see how the dates are looking based on numerology and Chinese astrology and the tropical zodiac. This is it right here, and we're going to take a look at that yellow-orange line that's at the top part of that graph. That yellow-orange line represents the total risk for the dates based on numerology and the Chinese astrology and the tropical zodiac, which are in the other colored lines at the bottom of the graph in the greens and the blue. It's actually the sum of the green and blue lines that give us the yellow-orange line at the top. So anytime the yellow-orange line hits the level 6 mark or higher, where level 6 is that gray horizontal line going across the graph, splitting it in two, whenever it goes above that, we're talking about risk periods, risk dates. And April has quite a lot of them. There may not be the highest risk dates, but there's plenty of dates that are at level 6 and higher, especially in the 7s and 8s. A lot of back-to-back risk dates. That's the first giveaway right here. And now we're going to take a look at the same chart, but now let's simplify it. Simplify, yes, but we're actually going to just edit it so you guys can actually see where we can pinpoint the actual risk dates that this chart contains. And then this is it. There's a huge risk period that's actually April 1st through the 26th. Even though there's a quick break on April 7th and the April the 17th, where the yellow-orange line goes right below 6 for just a little bit below level 6. It's too short of a break, so in reality we just look at it as one whole period. But we can break it up into three main parts: April 1st through the 6th, April 8th through the 16th, and April 18th through the 26th. Towards the end of the month, we see a bit of a change. We don't have so many back-to-back risk dates. There's actually a decent break on April 27th, followed by a single risk day on April 28th. It drops again below level 6 on the 29th, and then goes right up again on the 30th, but just to level 6.5. So it's very short little risk dates, and both of those risk dates are not exceedingly powerful. April 28th is fairly significant at level 7, but April 30th is a pretty low level 6 to 6.5 date. So we do have a bit of a pattern change towards the end of April. But if you guys are wondering what does all this mean, well, in general, I can tell you there's a really long risk period that covers the majority of April, all of the first half of April, and then most of the second half into the 26th. And then at the very tail end of April, we have a change where we see more short duration periods that usually correspond to more sudden events, like moderate earthquakes, for example, or landslides, that kind of thing. Whereas long duration periods usually indicate major weather events or back-to-back weather events, a weather pattern that brings destruction and severe impacts that just keeps repeating. And this is actually probably a continuation of what we had in the later part of March, where we actually had a really long risk period, March 21st through the 27th, I believe, and it featured a really powerful tornado outbreak in the United States, in the southern U.S. Well, looks like April, we're going to have the same thing going on here. It's actually a really, really ripe-looking month for major tornado and severe weather outbreaks. So right off the bat, I'll tell you right away, guys, that is the number one risk scenario for this month. It's severe weather and tornadoes. And we may see 3 waves of them. In fact, we're about to have supposedly a really big tornado outbreak April 4th, which is tomorrow, into April 5th, the next day. It lines up with that April 1st to 6th period you have at the beginning of the month. Then we have another even stronger looking part of that same risk period, April 8th through the 16th. And then April 8th, 18th through the 26th. And out of all these dates, perhaps the biggest ones might be April 8th through the 10th, April 13th through the 15th, and April 20th through the 25th. Those will be the biggest risk dates after tomorrow's date, April 4th and April 5th. So, now I showed you guys this chart and what I think might be happening. Let's go ahead and go into the next part right here. Take a look at this. So now, we're going to take a look at what those charts could mean for us and what parts of the world should take a look at the most closely. This is it. For the first most likely scenario, which is severe weather and tornadoes, this is the parts of the world that may experience it. And right away I'll tell you the areas in the contours surrounded by red and orange are the most likely places to see this event. So you can see sticking out like a sore thumb is the United States. Huge bullseye right there. We have a little bit of possibilities in Southern Europe, and then we have another little bullseye right around India, Bangladesh, which is also an area that tends to get tornadoes this time of year. But out of the two places, I believe the most important one to watch in the sense of who's got the highest risk, the United States is probably the most risky place to watch given the current weather patterns that we've seen in the past few weeks. Hopefully the Indian subcontinent, including Bangladesh and India, are going to luck out this year. But just as a precaution, I also put them in yellow and red. But more likely than not, the yellow, orange, and red in the United States is going to be the place to watch. At the bottom of this graph, well, not graph, but map, you can see the dates that are most likely to have this event. Got in red, in green, and in yellow. And as you might imagine, red equals the likeliest dates, yellow the second likeliest dates, and then green are simply just possible dates for the event, but they have the lowest risk. April 1st through the 5th, April 8th through the 10th, April 13th through the 15th, and April 20th through the 25th are the most risky parts of the month for tornadoes and severe weather. It's actually not just your typical year. 2023 is actually a really interesting year because according to Chinese astrology, which I use, it's considered the year of the rabbit, which, is really a 12-year cycle point. So this year of the rabbit repeats every 12 years, and I've noticed over time that there seems to be about a 12-year occurring pattern relating to certain years. Like some years tend to be really bad for hurricanes, some years tend to be really bad for earthquakes, some years tend to be really bad for weather events like severe weather and tornadoes, where this year is actually a really big tornado year. It's among the biggest ones. We just got to go back to the last two such rabbit years to see the effect of this animal sign cycle on the United States, particularly. 2011, that was the previous rabbit year, and 2011 had that super outbreak in late April of that year. We go back 12 years more to 1999, devastating tornadoes that destroyed parts of Oklahoma, including the most powerful tornado ever recorded. That one happened in early May. The spring severe season of the rabbit year tends to be really intense, according to this 12-year cycle. So this points to 2023 probably being a really bad tornado year. It's already been pretty bad, but I think it might get even worse, or at least keep bringing us events of a similar severity to what we saw in March. So just a heads up, guys. This is, in my opinion, everything is pointing to a blockbuster tornado season this year. And like I said, it's among the biggest tornado years. I mean, there's a few others out there, but the rabbit is among the biggest ones. Probably the biggest we'll see in a few years. 2025 might be another year to watch, but that's another story. Let's focus on this one for now. Just a heads up. So that's how we're looking for the tornadoes. Now, the dates in yellow are also not to be ignored. They're the second most likely dates to have tornado events and severe weather. April 11th through the 12th, April 16th, the 26th, and the 28th. So that's the tornado risk. Now let's take a look at the second risk that I think is worth mentioning for this month of April. It's earthquakes. Now, when it comes to earthquakes, every month is going to have a chance to have an earthquake. And April in particular this year is not a really crazy looking dangerous earthquake month in my opinion, mainly because of there's so many back-to-back risk days that mainly just equals weather events overall. But we still got to look within the mess of dates, back to back, to see if there's any certain days that stand out, like on the chart where there will be a rapid change from one day to the next. That gives a clue of where an earthquake could strike. There still are some earthquake dates worth putting in the red. April 8th is one of them. April 22nd, April 25th, and April 28th. And then there's also the yellow dates like April 9th, the 15th, the 20th, 24th, 26th, and the 30th. So, as far as earthquake potential, those are the most likely dates. And as you can see, April 28th was a single risk date at the very end of the month. Wasn't really that high in level. It was a level 7 risk date, but since it was by itself, that makes it more likely to have a sudden natural disaster, such as an earthquake. So, therefore, out of this month of April, April 28th is actually a fairly likely day for an earthquake within this month of April. But overall, I think the earthquake risk this month in April is actually average. So, hopefully things won't be too crazy with earthquakes. But regardless, these are the world areas that we should keep an eye on. Particularly focus on the areas that are shaded in green, yellow, orange, and red. With yellow-orange being the second likeliest place to have an earthquake, and the red being the most likely. This, world location, prediction is based mostly on recent history of earthquakes. For example, since we had a major earthquake in Turkey in February, the whole area of Turkey and the Middle East is considered high risk right now. Since there has been seismic activity, it's likely to continue triggering other seismic events in the general area. Therefore, we have them in red, as well as orange, all around that area. And busy areas that typically have earthquakes, such as Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, which have remained active as of last March, they're worth keeping in red as well. The same goes for orange. They're just slightly less active than the areas in red. But parts of South America and Central America definitely bear watching this month as well, just in case an earthquake happens. Just for the record, these earthquake prediction maps are specified for magnitude 6.0 and above. And that's basically what I think so far for the month of April, guys. Just trying to keep the prediction video a bit shorter than the past one. If I haven't mentioned already, feel free to check out my March video that I made most recent, where we went much further in depth into the astrology and numerology used to make these predictions, if you guys wish to see how this stuff is interpreted and where it comes from. But this is just the end result that you guys are seeing here for April. So that's all I have to say for the month, guys. Overall, April 2023 is most likely going to be a big weather month that's going to have a lot of tornado outbreaks and severe weather outbreaks, primarily over North America and the United States, with also other possibilities around Southern Europe and parts of Southeast Asia and the Indian subcontinent. But more likely than not, it's going to be the United States. It's going to get waves of severe weather and tornadoes. I'm afraid to say it, but it might not be too far off from what we saw in 2011. So there is a chance that we could have an F5 tornado either this month in April or next month in May, due to the Chinese astrology cycle year that we're in right now. Keep that in mind, guys, and make sure you're up to date with what to do in case a tornado strikes. Remember the basics. Head into the most interior room of your house. If you have a basement or storm cellar, that's the best place to be. If you don't, go into a lower level bathroom, which is the most likely place to have the most walls between the outside world and the home. And this is where people most likely, tend to survive major tornadoes. But of course, if you live in an area like a mobile home that's exposed to the elements and won't really survive a major tornado, well in advance before the tornado warnings hit, when the tornado watch gets issued for your area by the National Weather Service, just leave home, go somewhere where you think you may have a good chance of surviving a tornado. Parking garages made of concrete tend to be pretty good spots to go. Indoor buildings that are decide to withstand tornadoes are also pretty good to go. It's better to just leave home before something actually happens. Not during the event, but before. Just things to keep in mind, guys. Just some tips I figured I'd give you guys in case you guys are watching us from Tornado Alley or the southern U.S., which usually gets a lot of tornadoes this time of year. But okay, my friends, that's it for now. I'll probably be putting up some more videos in the coming weeks. So be posted for that, and I'll try to have updates for May and June and onwards as time goes on. Thanks, Eric. Thanks again for watching, guys. Stay safe. Take care. Bye.